What's up, Drop Pod listeners? As always, you can listen to the Drop Podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Pods. We're now on Apple Music, Audible, and Pandora as well. All episodes drop every Wednesday. You can find all of our content on YouTube at the Drop Golf Podcast and on our socials. That's Instagram and Twitter at the Drop_pod. No matter how you consume us, like, subscribe, rate, review, all that good stuff, follow and listen along.
This episode is sponsored by the Law Office of Mallon and Tranger. Tom Mallon and Randy Tranger are board-certified trial attorneys who share more than 40 years of legal experience. They specialize in personal injury matters, workers' compensation cases, and criminal and municipal defense. As certified trial attorneys, they have recovered millions of dollars on behalf of people injured in accidents and employees injured at work. They have offices conveniently located in Freehold and Point Pleasant. For skilled and personalized legal representation, call Mallon and Tranger at 732-780-0230 or check out their website at tmallonlaw.com. Not only are they good people, they're good golfers too. I think I'm going to come down with my self-made shirt that's going to say the Cream Team on it.
Oh boy.
This is the Drop Podcast where we talk golfing in the Garden State. I'm Mike Porro, and this is Ryan Coulott.
What is going on, everyone? Hope everyone had a wonderful week. This is a big one for us, Mike. Episode 30. I'm blown away. Can you believe it?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I guess, when we started this bad boy back in October, I couldn't envision we'd get to where we are this quickly. So thank you to everybody that's listening, following, subscribing, the whole nine. Again, Ryan and I can't thank you guys enough, and I'm sure we say it often, but we truly do mean it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for following along, for coming along for the ride, really. It's been a lot of fun. Hope you guys enjoy the content. I know Mike and I enjoyed doing it, so thank you. We got a special guest on this episode. Today's guest is Brad Tilley. Brad is the reigning Met Player of the Year in 2022. He won 4 tournaments in 2022. 4. That's an incredible streak for a guy he's got a full-time job, right, Mike? Right? Mm-hmm. So it's not like he's grinding away on the PGA Tour where they got events every week. That's incredible. He's made it through local qualifying for the US Open. He's got a legit shot to play in it. That's coming up for him. If you recognize his name, it's because he's partners with Pat Wilson in the USGA Fourball Championship down at Kiowa. That's coming up next week. Pat mentioned him when we had Pat on for episode 28, I believe, a couple episodes ago. And yeah, so it's nice to have both partners on. We had Pat, now we got Brad. We'll wish them luck down in the Fourball, and we'll see. Maybe we can get them on afterwards and see what they have to say. So stick around. Make sure you give that one a listen. You'll want to be all caught up for that.
Yeah, and right, so before we begin, I know today is Wednesday, May 3rd. So I know that the 55th PGA Professional Championship out in New Mexico is kind of wrapping up, or will wrap up based upon when you're listening to this. But I do want to make sure that I give a shout out to all our New Jersey guys that are out there. Hopefully they're in contention, maybe even one to the top of the leaderboard. So I want to give a quick shout out and best of luck, and hopefully they're all doing well. We got Nick Bova, Brian Gaffney, Brent Palladino, Bill Hook, Brian Krul Pfeiffer. Sorry, I butchered that, Bri. Greg Baker, Grant Sturgeon, Joel Bolanger, Noah Davis, Tommy Lee, and Brent Studer. All you guys, I hope everybody's playing really well out there. So I did want to get that one off, Rye. I got another one that I want to shout out to is all the NJSGA Fourball qualifying. I know that yesterday was the one down in LBI National. Obviously, again, this Wednesday, so we don't have the results out since we're recording here over the weekend. And then also, I know what's going on today. You got the one up in Oak Hill, which is in Northwest Jersey, is the final qualifying spot for the Fourball championship for the NJSGA that'll be out at Hamilton Farm, out where Nick Bova's out, the director of instruction. And the last one I do want to give a quick little shout out to. I know over the weekend we put out a little poll asking about people that listen to the podcast. And I want to give a quick little shout out here to Chris Vital. And I say this because, when you're on social media and you're connecting with everybody that's out there that DMs you, ask questions, I'd like to say that I'm really quick with responding when people do, send us a question or a comment or a concern for that matter, or even a critique, because listen, I'm open to all types of feedback. But the things that Chris had said about listening to the podcast, about how he got his dad involved, made me smile and made me share that with you earlier about, like, this is why we try to promote all the good things that is golf in the Garden State. So I do want to give Chris and his dad a little bit of a shout out. We appreciate you guys listening and following along. And to their credit, they're New Jersey guys, but they live out in Staten Island and they still listen and follow along. So thank you guys.
Yeah, appreciate that, guys. Mike, I want to piggyback that. Use your phrase. You like to say the word piggyback, but good luck to you. You're qualifying for the Fourball or trying to qualify. So best of luck to you. Hopefully we got something good to talk about next week when we have it. So
hopefully at this point we're not looking for balls in the woods, or picking up the ball and pocketing and just riding along with my partner. So I appreciate that.
Your partner has the skill to carry you though, which is good.
Indeed, he does.
All right, so let's jump into a couple things. Mike, as you're trying to qualify for the Fourball. And we just talked about Pat and Brad qualifying for the National Fourball. Obviously, you're two different tournaments. We should make that clear. You're trying to qualify for the New Jersey Fourball. Pat and Brad are playing in the USGA Fourball Championship. Slightly different levels of competition.
Big time.
For those out there, what... And again, you're in that, you like to be competitive in golf these last couple years. What is that, like, how many levels of qualifying is there typically? What is that like? Is it two 18s in a day to try to get something? Like, can you shed some light for those people that might not know like when we talk about qualifying on this, or Brad qualifying for the US Open, what does that typically entail for us?
Yeah, so on the national scene, it's kind of like uncharted territories for me. I just know things from what I read. Never once had the game to even think about entering something like that. But from my understanding, the local qualifying is 18 holes, and they take, somewhere between like 3 to 5 to 6 players at that event. And if it's a tie, they just go sudden death and they play till they get their number, and the number that they're looking for before the tournament, before the qualifier begins. So I know, for example, the one that Brad just had gotten through, they were taking 5 people
for the U.S. Open.
For the local qualify. Okay. Yeah, for the local qualifying for the U.S. Open, and he got the 5th spot. He got through, in the playoff. He got through, which then means he goes out to sectional qualifying. And if you remember what Pat said, it's 36 holes. And he said it's the longest day of his life, because you're sitting there, and if you have one of those earlier tee times, like, you're waiting and waiting and waiting, because if there is a playoff, like, you're getting in it and you got to wait around till that last group finishes. So it's 36 holes of sectional qualifying. And then if you get through sectional, you're going to the big dance. And that's kind of how the United States Open works in terms of the qualifying. For like the USGA stuff, from my understanding, again, not even an area where I would dabble in, because I'm not even close to that. It's one site, okay? And they take, again, based upon how many people have entered, they'll take, 5 or 6 teams for the Fourball at that qualifying site, and they get to move on to the championship. Now, at the championship, that's when, there's another, like, the first day is trying to, like, figure out the like, you try to get to the round of 64, because then from there, it's match play from that point on. But I think when, Brad kind of explains it, I think it'll be a lot easier for the audience to get a first-hand opinion or idea about it, because he is going through it and lives it as way more than someone like I do. I like to vicariously live through a lot of these guys and think that I can play like them, but in actuality, we know the truth. So, but then on the state side, it's really cut and dry.
But also before you leave the National, like we had Stu on, and Stu talked about like getting through and playing into the Masters. But again, I think going back from that, we talked about qualifiers, we talked about sectionals. I think we even had mentioned match play with Stu, but didn't, someone who doesn't know might get confused and just knows some lingo now, but doesn't actually know what that entails. So now getting into the New Jersey stuff, what are we talking?
Yeah, so like the New Jersey side, the NJSGA has about 3 or 4 sites that are qualifying sites, and at each one of these sites, if you're not already exempt, meaning like you or your partner haven't won in the past or meet any of the criteria, but it would have to be you and your partner, for example, for the Fourball, because you can't just randomly pick somebody else. You go through the qualifying sites, and based upon how many entries, I should say, are at that site, they'll tell you before the tournament starts, all right, we're taking top 5 and ties. So if you and your partner finish top 5 and ties, you get to go play in the championship. And that's kind of how that works. Then when you get to the championship, it may be a little different in terms of, it's 18 holes, stroke play. And then from there, they may take the top 8, the top 16, whatever the case ends up being. And then you play match play on day 2 of the championship. Now, if you don't make match play because you weren't low enough after the first round of stroke play, your tournament's over. But then you could continuously move on, but it ends up being match play after the first 18 holes of the championship, if that makes sense.
To kind of weed out anybody else, yeah.
Yeah, because we're going to try to get down to the match play portion of it. Whereas like in the state open or the state amateur, it's all stroke play all the way through. So like for the state open, it's 54 holes, but they have a cut. After 36 holes, you'll play, let's say Monday, 18 holes. You play Tuesday, 18 holes. The cut line is wherever. If you're below the cut line, you don't come back for day 3. If you're above the cut line, you get to come play in the final round. So every tournament's a little different. Again, I would tell everybody to make sure you read the rules and regs to make sure you fully grasp the whole thing. Because if you and your partner in the Fourball are playing well, it could be three days off from work, or school if you're a college kid. So like, you need to be prepared. You can't just bow out after one day and say, "Oh, listen, I'm good."
Right.
Like it don't work like that.
The Fourball that you're qualifying for, you play your ball all the way through to the end of the hole. And then you and your partner have a score. You have a score, he has a score. And you take the best score gets written down on the card, correct? That's what we talk about when we're talking Fourball. Yeah,
so we're playing Fourball. If and my partner's Austin Devereaux, won the state am a few years back. If Austin makes a birdie on the first hole and I make a par, our score is birdie. So we're 1 under.
It's likely for you to make a par and him to make a birdie.
Yeah, listen, it's one of those things. Listen, it's always nice not having to be the dog. I could just be the little pup, just trailing the guy in the background, and if I contribute here and there, it's like a plus.
Yeah,
it's a piggyback ride, like I like to say a lot.
I do think that sometimes in golf, it can get confusing when you're talking about, especially when you throw handicaps in there. Like, hey, we're going to play best ball. Best ball and Fourball is the same thing. Right? So we have 2 phrases for the same thing, which can get confusing. But then you add in, alternate shot's not really going to be, a confusion to anyone. But when you talk about net scoring or net or gross, thank you, or gross scoring, those terms can get confusing. So while we're on there, let's kind of define those for, again, half of our audience is paired up with you in competition, and they might be shutting this off or fast forwarding. But the other half is trying to drag the wheel with drag the golf cart that's got square wheels on it. So gross scoring is your total score.
Yeah. So I'll give you a perfect example.
Yep.
So like when you go play in a tournament, okay, and the NJSGA, the USGA, or even to Brad's defense, trying to qualify for the United States Open. it's all gross. Whatever you get on the hole is what you get on the hole. But for the majority,
they've already done the handicaps because
right,
you had
there
to
is
qualify.
no handicaps.
But you needed in order to play, you needed to be under this, and then once
correct.
you're in it, now we're just playing golf, right?
Now
Nobody's
we're just
getting
golf.
if
Right.
you're a +7. And usually it's like 4 for those 4, 5, 6, 7, something like that. So if you're a +7 and you're playing against someone who is a 7, right? Even though in theory that's 14 shots, that 7's got to do some golfing that day.
Right. But I would say then for the majority of us that play during the week or on weekends with our buddies, you play handicapped or net matches. Meaning like if I'm a 2 handicap and you're an 11, we play off the low guy. So like when we have our match, me versus you, I'd have to give you the difference, which is 9 shots. You then go to the scorecard and it's match play. So then we go to the scorecard, we find the 9 hardest holes. And that's where you would get a stroke. Now it doesn't change the score that you would post in Gin. If you shot 88, you shot 88 because that's what you shot. But in terms of our match, it would all be a net scoring match. So if you took money out of my pocket or out of my wallet, it would be because you won the match, which would be match play. But you still would be posting your gross score, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I think that's where we start to get into a little bit because we had mentioned when we were together last week the idea of sandbaggers. And I think sometimes that definition is somebody who shoots a score and then says, I'm not putting in that score. I'm going to put in another score that's higher, which, yes, is a sandbagger. But there are also variations of being sandbaggers. And we were saying that there are other different ways in which you can say, like, in this situation, you and I are playing, you're giving me 9 strokes. We want to keep the pace of play up. You give me a shot. Like, hey, that putt's good. Well, taking that putt as good, but then still marking it as a missed putt in the scorecard is a way to be a sandbagger because they're saying you're going to make that putt. Now, there's the slippery slope because when your friends start giving you putts that are 5, 6 feet, now I would argue that 5, 6 footer, I'm missing 70% of the time. So now where does that Now you talk about, is that person being a sandbagger by saying, okay, the last 4 holes you've given me a putt of about this length, about 5 feet. I'm going to miss at least one of them, right? So they add a stroke to their hole. Where does that lie in your competitive, and I don't mean for this to be like an interview of you, but like, give me your opinion. Where does that lie in your...
It's a great question because you always want to play in sense, if I'm having a match with somebody, I'd love to play with someone who says they're lower than they really should be because that's less shots you have to give. Mm-hmm. But I think that goes back to one of the things that you and I spoke a lot about very early in all our podcasts is about ball in hole. Now, I understand I've gotten people that DM me and say, well, then we're going to be out there for an eternity. But I think if you listen back to the RBC Heritage or, was that 2 or 3 episodes ago when we talked about pace of play, like you can still put the ball in the hole in a normal manner. Like it doesn't have to be where you're rushing. But like if I have a 7-footer and I'm playing golf, like no offense, like I got to make that 7-footer. Like if it's a 2-footer, all right, like hey, listen, maybe once I give it, but like if I'm not a good putter, like I need to tell my buddy next time in the cart, like, hey, listen, I get it, it's good for the match, but I need to putt it for my score because my score matters to me. And I don't think once that it's explained to that person, they get it because you're honest and you want to carry a true handicap. But for the match, if it's good, it's good. It doesn't matter. And typically when things don't matter, we typically make them because there's less pressure on us. But I mean, right. it's a great argument. It's a great argument.
It just seems like it's a chicken or the egg theory. It's like, how do you keep an honest handicap while playing match play and keeping a round be around 4 hours? And how do you do all that with, again, by trying to keep it fair and all that? So
the answer is when it's your turn, be ready to go. Mm-hmm. It's really that simple. Even if the putt is good, even if I made a double bogey and you stroke on the hole and you have a 5-footer for par, it doesn't matter. You're going to win the hole. But if after I make my double, if you still have your 5-footer and you're ready to go after I've picked my ball up, then you putt it.
Yeah.
And I think that just like kind of goes back to a lot of the things that we spoke about a few episodes ago with playing ready golf. Which leads me into my question. I got one here for you.
Okay.
All County Exteriors is a third-generation premier exterior home remodeling company celebrating over 40 years in business. In a remodeling world where the average remodeling company only survives in business for only 5 years, All County Exteriors has stood the test of time, providing their customers with top-quality roofing, siding, windows, and doors. They service homeowners and builders with anything from small repairs to large additions. All County Exteriors is not just limited to construction. They have a deep passion for giving back to their community and are charitable supporters of a Make-A-Wish Foundation, the American Cancer Society, Roofs for Troops, and Parents of Autistic Children. If you have planned to do any exterior remodeling, call the experts at All County Exteriors for a free, no-obligation estimate for your project. Just call 732-370-2780 or email them at info@allcountyonline.com. That's 732-370-2780 for All County Exteriors for all your remodeling needs. I had someone DM me on Instagram and said, I'd like you to bring this up. And he asked the question and I instantly answered it because I knew where I stood with this. Bunkers. Does the rake go inside the bunker or does the rake go outside the bunker, and why?
Outside the bunker. And I know that in theory a ball could catch it and not get into the bunker because it hit the rake. I got that. But I think if it's leaving in the bunker, you're now altering the sand that's in there. And if the ball gets into the bunker, like if it skips over a rake or something like that, the ball gets into the bunker, it should be whatever. What's the word
Untouched?
I'm looking for? Untouched as possible. Yeah. Whereas if it's in the bunker, now you got the handle, you got the shaft of the thing, you got the rake, it's the teeth of it, you got all that kind of. No, I'm a rakes out of the bunker person.
Well, it's funny you say it because another thing, I completely agree. And when the question was presented to me, there was zero hesitation on my end.
Yeah.
For me, it's out of the bunker 100 times out of 100.
I had to think about why I said it, but I don't think I hesitated with that.
No, you didn't, which I agree with. And I was asked that question, and I just immediately said it's outside the bunker. And I don't know if that's just traditionally growing up, that's where it always was, and that's how I knew it. But I think to your point about how the rake can now alter the sand, and if my ball is in that vicinity, now I don't have what is the most true, untouched lie that I may have had the rake not been there. And listen, for as many bad breaks as we all get on a golf course, when the ball hits a tree and it kicks out of bounds instead of back into the fairway, if my ball hits the freaking rake and bounce on the green, I deserve one. Or you deserve one. Mm-hmm. Because we all know, more often than not, we don't get that break. So give me that break once in a while.
Yeah.
Put the rakes outside the bunker.
Yeah, I think that's a no-brainer. The only one that I have seen is like sometimes I don't know if I've ever run across a club that has them in the bunker, but I have seen them put the rakes over the bunker. So like have most of it be outside and then have the teeth of it be like overlaying. I have seen that, but I don't think I've ever seen the in the bunker. And
it's funny because the listener
or just haven't noticed.
The listener who DM'd me about it said, and his point was valid too, and it made me think for a second, but I couldn't change my stance. And he said he leaves it in the bunker, and he said you're in a hazard anyway, so why should it matter? Which again, it's like, okay, maybe you're hitting in a spot you shouldn't be in anyway. Like, you shouldn't have the greatest of all lies. You're in a hazard, more or less.
Right, but that... So I hate when they went to hazard. Like that now everything is a
penalty area.
penalty, right? So like,
But the bunker's not. The bunker's
right. So that hurts his argument that you're not in a, you're on the golf course, you're not in that area that he's talking about. I can understand if like you hit it, it's by the cart barn. The cart barn's kind of in the middle of the course, and you hit it there. You shouldn't be there. I got it, but bunkers are in play just the same way that regular grass is.
Yeah, listen, he had brought it up and asked me to bring it up, so I knew I quickly answered the question. There was no hesitation on my end.
Yeah.
But obviously, I'd like to get your take, so when he listens, he gets the we're in agreement.
From two people. Yeah, I wonder if that's like there's certain clubs that do that, or if there's certain parts of the country, or if that's like, I don't know. What bothers me about the bunkers? I hate when places don't have multiple rakes for a bunker. Minimum there should be two, because there's two sides to a bunker, right? There's a left and a right, there's a front and a back to the bunker. So minimum you should have them on opposite sides. And just like golf carts at the grocery store, just like shopping carts at the grocery store.
I was going to say, what grocery store are you going to that you're flying around? It goes back to you and your golf carts.
Yeah.
Like now you're taking it to the grocery store.
I love my golf carts. But just like the shopping carts, they should be put away. Go put them in that little barn that they have every couple rows or whatever. Same thing with the rakes. If you're in the front of the bunker and that club has put them on the left and the right, go get a rake it, and then put it back where you found it. If that club has chosen not to buy a lot of rakes, then they chose not to. That's on them. But put the rake back where you found it, because they should be opposites of one another. But you shouldn't have two within like 10 feet and then none on the other side. That really bothers me.
Can we tell the people that rake the bunker when they're done too? Leave things in a better spot than they were when you entered. But that's for a whole other day.
Whole other argument, for sure. Let's go. Let me ask you this, kind of while we're on this topic here. I saw this on Instagram. Hole-in-ones, which we talked about when we played with Orson, but I don't think we talked about this. And if we did, I just, I have a bad memory, so that could be it. If you're alone and you get a hole-in-one, are we counting it?
Listen, that is a great question. But I think if I make a hole-in-one and I'm alone, yeah, I'm counting it because I did it. I did it. Whether or not people want to truly believe me, I don't know, but maybe I'd video the whole thing from me walking from where I am to the actual hole itself, showing it. Now, people may say that I did it ahead of time, and I'd say I don't have that much time on my hands.
Yeah.
Right. But if I made it and nobody was there, I think
I'm in not good enough shape to run 170 yards, put a ball in a hole, run back, and not be out of breath for the talk of it. Yeah.
And have the divot in the green to where it landed. If I was alone and I couldn't find anywhere on the golf course, I'm counting it because I did it. That in my mind counts. Now, does that truly suck that nobody else was there or no one in the golf course could at least come over and see the ball in the hole? Mm-hmm. Yeah, no doubt. But if I'm alone and I still make it, I'm counting it.
So I am too. And like you said, if other people aren't going to believe me, then that's their problem. And there's going to be there's some times in life where you just it's not your someone's actions or what they said or what they did or whatever is more telling about them than it is you. So if you get a hole-in-one, and again we play a gentleman's game, we should all be honest. If they don't believe you, then that's on them. That's saying something more about them. And I don't know. I'd like for people to believe me. It sucks that nobody was around, for sure it does. What about on a temped green?
If I make a hole-in-one on a temporary green, there's zero chance I'm counting it.
Okay.
No shot. To me, the temp green goes back to, again, the Orson conversation with executive par threes. Mm-hmm. I can't buy into the temp green, me making it and then counting it. I'm not even putting an asterisk next to it. I hate temp greens And when you're playing golf, like I know that during the winter time that there's a lot of them out there because you're trying to save the golf course for the season. Totally get it. But no, I am not counting that. Don't tell me you are.
How many shots did it take you to get that ball in that hole?
1.
That's my argument for it. I don't.
Yeah, but I guess my
not,
counter is to be like, it's not the real hole. It's not even
the
the real green.
hole for that day, though. That golf course, but hold on, that golf course and that superintendent said this is the golf hole for the day. Just like when they change the pin locations, this is the pin for the day. It's in the front,
on the green.
It's in the back, on the green. They changed the pin locations. Well, now they've closed the green to grow it or for whatever reason. So the superintendent is saying this is the hole for today.
And then there's sometimes when you get on temp greens, people play automatic 2-putts.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we just going to magically change all the rules all of a sudden for a temporary green? The hole ends up being shorter in nature by everything. It's not even a no, and no.
I have a tough time. So here's
why.
You're
counting it? You're counting it.
I said I have a tough time.
If you called me and told me, hey, I don't know how to say this to you, but I made a 1 and it was on a temp green, I'd say you still haven't made a hole in 1.
And my argument would be the golf course that day said this is the hole, and I took 1 stroke to get it in. Now, that's my argument, and that is the argument to make. And that's a pretty fucking good argument to make. It's tough to argue with that. However, to your point, I don't know. It doesn't really feel right arguing it. It'd be like trying to say, yeah, OJ was innocent. And trying to argue that with like all the arguments against it. I have a tough time going against it with those arguments, but I also don't feel good about it.
It's like, okay, you're a memorabilia guy. You always bust my chops about where's my hole-in-one golf balls, and I don't know where they are. You make a hole-in-one on a temp green. You're telling me right there on the wall behind you, you're starting a hole-in-one little memorabilia, spot and putting that ball as your first one in that slot.
Honestly, I think I am. Yeah.
Oh my!
I think I'm putting it in. I think I'm putting it in the case.
Oh my God. Oh. Okay.
Now here, does this play into the factor at all? Because I've seen this. When they make a green, because sometimes we'll play places like in the winter, and there's some places I know you and I know that are not the best kept all the time. So they'll put a hole at the end of the fairway, and they won't do anything different. It'll just be in the fairway. Does that matter if it's the fairway or if the course has cut out a big circle that is much shorter and more green-like? Does that do anything for you?
If the pin is not on the normal green that we all know and love, a hole-in-one, a hole-out, a birdie, your first par ever, no, it does not count if the pin is not on the normal green we play. No, there's nothing that you could do. I don't care if they want to shave it all around in a nice big circle, cut it down. Nope. To me, I guess I'm way too much of a traditionalist with that, and there is no swaying my opinion on that. I can't buy that. I can't.
All right, guys, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed a wide array. I think we got a little different episode there. We talked about a bunch of different stuff. Happy 30th, Mike, and we're gonna send you now to our interview with Brad Tilley, 2022 Met Player of the Year, and at one time kept a low handicap of plus 6.7. That's wild. Enjoy the interview.
Matara's Italian Market and Catering Company is located in the heart of Rutherford, New Jersey at 72 Park Avenue and has everything you need for an authentic Italian table. Recently celebrating its 10-year anniversary, Matera's Italian Market brings all your senses alive as you walk in the door. Imported retail products, cheeses and cold cuts, freshly baked bread, and the creamiest fresh mozzarella. All can be ordered on the Matera's On Park app in Apple and Google stores. Above the market, a private space called the Loft can be reserved for intimate family parties all the way to corporate events. So give them a follow on Instagram at Matera's Italian Market. Stop by and say ciao. Matera's, you'll walk in a stranger, leave his family. All right, so today's guest is reigning Met Player of the Year. He won 4 times in 2022, which included the Farrell and the 120th Met Amateur Championship. He recently got through local qualifying for the 2023 United States Open. He's also playing in the United States Golf Association's Fourball out of Kiowa Island with Pat Wilson. Today's guest is Brad Tilley. Brad, thanks for coming on the show, pal.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so to get a guy like you on with your resume, I mean, it's a huge get for us. And I know sometimes Ryan and I say this to guests that come on that don't think of themselves like that. But to our audience and to guys like us that are just like golf diehards here, you're a big time name. So, real quick, thank you again for coming on the show. But why don't you give the audience a little background about yourself for the guy that does not know who Brad Tilley is and some of the things that you may have done? Why don't you give us a little background of your story?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Chappaqua, New York, and my dad was an avid golfer, so he introduced me to the game really young, and we were fortunate enough to be members at Sleepy Hollow Country Club. So I spent a bunch of time there as a very young junior golfer with him, not really knowing my love for the game at that point. It was just something I did with my dad, and it was something that other people told me I was talented at, I guess, from an early age. I don't think that means that much at that point, but it was something I really loved with my dad, and it's a bond that we have to this day together, our love for golf and being able to play golf together. So that's how I started. My first passion was actually hockey. My dad's from Montreal, and he identified to me. We've always been honest with each other, and it was pretty clear I wasn't going to play in the NHL for multiple reasons. And, it was my dream really early on in life. And then so I kind of stopped playing hockey and started signing up for junior tournaments pretty young. And I had success in those right away. And it was something that, turned from a passion playing with my dad to I was pretty good at junior tournaments at the regional and local level. And I was able to work up into AJGA events, which were instrumental for me being recruited to college and ended up at the University of Virginia, which 4 great years and great institution and a great time and a solid golf program. And it became pretty clear to me at that point that I wanted to play professional golf and give that a go. And I gave it a hard go for 8 years and never quite got where I wanted to, but saw a lot of cool things, played on some pretty cool tours, got around the world and played all over the place, it's great life experience. Obviously wish I'd made it to the PGA Tour, and but I don't have to have the doubt of what if I hadn't tried or what it might be. And I loved what the USGA and MGA and these amateur golf associations do, and allowing people that tried the game professionally to come back and get reinstated amateur status. And I did that in 2016 when I was moving back from Florida to the New York area, living in Connecticut now, and started playing tournaments again in 2017 and was quite a bit rusty at that point. I hadn't really played much golf for 3 years, and definitely not tournament golf. So got back into it, and I found some success at the amateur level, and I'm just really enjoying being able to compete in the game and the sport that I'm most passionate about. So that's the background.
Yeah, that's I mean, listen, I think when, Ryan and I were talking about this weekend, that we're just like looking at your handicap just in general. And I think when we jokingly say like, oh, like we can get it around a little bit and be competitive. But like your low index at one point was plus 6.7. And Ryan and I were just like mind blown by that type of number, because like when you hear good golfers, like, oh, you're good, you're a scratch golfer. But when you start getting to that level, like, why don't you speak to a little bit? I know we have a lot of high school golfers and college golfers that listen to us that'll DM me and say like, well, how do you get to that level, or to someone where where you've had success on not only a local level but now also on a national level as well. I know you just got back from the Coleman down at Seminole. So why don't you speak a little bit about that, like how you balance, maybe work life to your competitive golf life to maybe even just like practicing.
Yeah. As far as getting, I mean, I've never really cared what my handicap index was, to be blunt with you. I think I don't know if it's cool that I got to plus 6.7. It meant that I was not a very competitive net player at that time. Yeah, I feel like I'm an easy target at the club level for net games. Those 5 for 3s are tough to beat sometimes, and but it's fun. I guess that keeps me sharp in a different way. And but to get to that level, to get to scratch golf, I mean, it's all relative, right? I mean, everyone's game is quite a bit different. Some people need to add length, but the most common thing I see is usually course management, how you manage your emotions on the course as well, whether it be getting frustrated or down on yourself, lack of patience, and then short game. I mean, it really is 120 yards and in, and I know that people talk a lot about distance these days, and this is nothing to do with what the USGA is talking about, but just in general, how the thing that's highlighted most weeks is someone hitting a 9-iron from 190 yards, or a 345-yard drive by Rory or someone like that, and that's kind of becomes the glory of the week in a way. And what I think goes unnoticed is how great these guys are at shot making and how great their short games are. If you ask Rory when he has success, what the difference is, and I can guarantee you it's how close he's hitting his wedges and how he's putting that week. It's not hitting it 350 instead of 310. I mean, so that's really how you take a step to that next level, is get precise with those things and manage your game well. Whether you're in trouble, if your wedge game's good enough, you can simplify the game quite a bit, right? You can chip out when you're in trouble to a wedge number that you like, and you can still make a par on that hole, and make up and down from that on a tough bunker shot that maybe you hadn't in the past. And that's how you really shave those final strokes off your game to get to a scratch, or even if you're a 10 handicap and you want to get to a 5, that's what's going to be most important to you. And if you want to compete in college golf or high school golf, and you're playing against a +2 handicap and you're currently a scratch, you need to probably become a better putter, and a better putter when it matters. But everyone's unique in that. And then as far as the mid-am side of things and how I handle practice and work life balance with golf and competitive schedule, it's tough. It is really tough. You don't get to practice as much as you did in college, or obviously as I did when I was a professional golfer. That was my job. So I think I'm fortunate enough. I'm a field player, so I can get work done pretty quickly on the range. If my feels are there, then they're there, and I kind of know what my feels are. I've hit over 1 million golf balls in my life, I would say, in the many years that I've practiced and did as a professional. There were some long hours on the range there, and I feel like I know my game really well. I know how to fix it really well, but scheduling is always tough. And for me, it's just been identifying what events I'm going to focus on that year, because I can't do everything. I mean, I got some really great national invites this summer that I'm not going to be able to play, and that's just the way it is. I just today I wrote a really sincere email to the Western Golf Association and their whole staff there, telling them that, I've never played the Western Amateur. I'm exempt into it this year based on world ranking, and it coincides with the Met Amateur, which I'm defending. And as MGA Player of the Year and defending champion, the right thing to do is to, honor that commitment and defend that title. And I mean, it's no pity there for, I don't want any pity for that. I get to go to Friar. Pretty special thing, but it is tough to manage, and you just got to be solid in your decisions and be efficient when you do practice and figure out what works for you.
Yeah, that's a big one to turn down, the Western Am. But I get it. Like someone on your level, and I think we had this conversation when we interviewed Stu Hagestad too. It's like the balance of work and life, and then finding the tournaments that suit your schedule to make it all work. And that was something Stu had harped on a lot. I think Mark Costanza, when we interviewed him, harped on that a lot. Like trying to find the balance in life to make your time as valuable as possible.
Yeah. And everyone's going to find a different balance in that. We all have different schedules. I'm very fortunate that the line of work I'm in and my boss is very supportive of me playing amateur golf. Not everyone has that. I mean, if you're working a investment banking job at 120 hours a week, I can't imagine you're going to play too many tournaments or be practiced for those tournaments. So, I mean, I sympathize with some of those guys who are elite talents at the mid-amateur level that maybe don't have the freedom or ability to create their schedule. And it is tough, and it's tough for everyone, whether you have a family and little kids, and we all have different stuff going on, and you just got to find what works for you.
You had mentioned like 120 and in. That's that famous quote from John Daly, he's talking about like back in the day with like Tiger and how he just smashes the ball, and everybody can do that on tour. Everybody on tour hits the ball hard. It's how good are you from 120 and in. Everybody knows it, just nobody wants to believe it. No, because that's not the fun stuff to work on.
Well, yeah, it's fun to smash driver on the range, and then it's fun to hit one by your buddy and laugh at him when you walk down the
What's the best part of your game?
Wow, not to sound boring. I think my mental game is the strongest part of my game. If I had to pick a physical attribute to my game, that's probably, I've got good hands. Like around the green, I can kind of make up and down in places where someone looks over their shoulder and how do you do that kind of thing. I think I hit in a lot of trouble and made bad decisions early on in my golfing career, so I got used to being short-sighted and having to rely on that. So,
not a skill you necessarily wanted, but
yeah. And I guess I'm just lucky. I mean, I have good hands, and I'm not afraid to pull those shots off under pressure. So I think that from the physical side of the golf game, I'd say, getting out of trouble and around the greens with the touchy shots, having hit a high spinner, something like that.
I love that you went to the mental part first. That shows how important that is. That again, you talk about like going from being like a good high school player to a great high school player, being a great high school player to being a Division I college player, a good Division I to a great Division I, to being a Corn Ferry Tour guy, to being a pro. Like all those different levels, you're just continuing to chisel those away, but we think physical all the time, right? We never go to the mental toughness that it takes, or the course management, like you said. We overlook those. So I love that you went right to there. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think comes down to self-belief and being honest with yourself too. You need to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and know what you did well and what you didn't do well, and not make excuses. And I'd say a lot when you're younger too, it's easy to make an excuse because it's hard to look in the mirror and say, I didn't pull it off today,
right,
or I need to improve that area of my game, because golf you're alone out there. I mean, I know we have caddies sometimes and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, you're the one hitting the shots, and you're kind of on this fine line of self-belief, almost lying to yourself that you're better than you are. Like Jack Nicklaus says, he never three-putted, right? And we all know he's three-putted. You have to be honest with yourself and analyze where you need to get better, and you got to own your mistakes and own your game and what you did wrong under the gun, or you're never going to do better under the gun. But at the same time, you have to have that self-belief. You can't lose that self-belief by being hard on yourself. So it's a tough balance there. But I mean, the mental side of the game is everything, really. I think we've all been there. I don't care what level you are. You've stepped up to a putt and know you're going to make it. And it's happened, right? So, I mean, I've seen 20 handicaps do it. where they step up and they're like, I'm going to make this, I'm going to win the hole with this putt, and they just knew it, and they make it. So what was the difference? I mean, it wasn't an easier putt. It's no different than any other putt you've ever hit. And some days they go in, some days they don't. But that shows you how strong, your brain is, and self-belief and the mental side of the game is, just by that example alone.
Yeah. And it's not just like you mentioned a putt. It's the same thing for someone shooting a free throw or someone getting a penalty kick or something like, it's that mental side is so important. And being strong requires, whether it's swag or confidence or whether it's just kind of being a dick sometimes. Like, you just got to have that little bit of edge, and however that exudes, you need to have it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at how you can just watch the tour events, and everyone does everything so differently, right? Whether it be mental or physical. I mean, you're not going to find two swings that are the same on tour, but you're also not going to find demeanors that are the same. Some guys are self-deprecating. I mean, think of Joel Damon and Kevin Kisner. Some guys have a ton of swag. I mean, Tiger believed he was going to win every tournament, that he's better than everyone else. You got angry players. Like, I mean, I think Sergio and Rahm are kind of angry players, but I think, at some points in their career, maybe it's bit them from a PR side of things, but at the same time, that's probably how they compete best.
And that makes them who they are. Yeah.
Yeah. So, everyone's different, but they all have something with that mental side of how they play the game, their identity, and what makes them play well.
Let's get a little bit into, the Met Am. And I think, obviously you had a very, very solid, successful, I don't even know what adjective you want to use to describe it, but 2022 was huge in terms of collecting wins. I think, Ryan and I talked about this weekend, like getting 4 wins in a season, guys are just hoping to get 1. And when you're able to get 4 and then kind of put the icing on the cake with the Met Am and put your name on a trophy with all those other dudes that, like, when we go up and down that list, like, there are big time names. Let's talk a little bit about that tournament. And correct me if I'm wrong. I read something that, it was 19 years when you reached prior to that, you reached the semifinals 19 years ago, but like, you never got further than that since you won. Now, I know the gap is, you went professional, so that kind of like stretched it out a little bit. But why don't you talk a little bit about that story, putting your name on that trophy with other big time names in the area?
Yeah, I mean, the Met Amateur is very much like the U.S. Amateur in a way, right? I mean, you think about the grind and the number and all the things that need to go right throughout a tournament, any tournament to win, but especially like a really long one with stroke play and then into match play. And you're going to have tough matches. You're going to have days where you're not 100% on. You got to find a way to win the match. You might run into some hot player that, I mean, I played a match last year, not in the Met Amateur, but I was playing Chris DeJean and I shot 65 and lost on 18. So it's just,
oh my
God. I mean, what are you going to do? I would have beat anyone else in the tournament that day, but he beat me. And, all you can do is smile and say congrats, but you run into that kind of thing at a match play tournament, or it's just so hard to win. I mean, I think I was the oldest guy to make match play last year, which I think is fun. And, it was 119 holes from Thursday through Sunday. So that's a period of time where the PGA Tour plays 72 holes, and those guys will tell you how it wears them down to be in contention and win a 72-hole event. So going the gauntlet for 119 holes, and it was really hot. It was like 95 degrees. It's just, that's a grind, and it's a huge honor. I mean, it's 120th playing of it. The first name on that trophy is 1899, and there's some massive names on there, guys that played in majors, guys with success on the PGA Tour, with wins on the PGA Tour. There's Walker Cuppers. It goes on. And just to be part of that fraternity of players that have won that event is a huge honor. Sometimes I still can't believe I did it. I got my trophy right here still. I got you get it for a year. So
I was just going to ask you.
Yeah, you get to keep it for a year, and you got to return it, I guess, a few days before the event, so then get it polished up and looking nice for the event. You get another trophy that doesn't look anything like, the big sterling silver one. It's a really nice piece of crystal. It says Meta Amateur Champion. It's something that I'll treasure,
For
but
sure, yeah.
the real deal, the sterling, I mean, it looks like a major championship trophy. And to see the first date is in 1899 on there and look at the names on it. Sometimes I still can't believe I won it. And I always had belief I could, but it's just so hard to win anything, let alone a match play tournament as prestigious as the Met Amateur with all those holes and great competitors and tough matches and everything that needs to go right. So yeah, it's just a massive honor.
I mean, when I look at the names that won it, like the names are like beyond impressive. It's not like just like run of the mill guys that, got lucky in a sense or got hot. Like, Chris Goddard, like dude can flat out golf his golf ball. Stu Hagestad, Pat Wilson, Ryan McCormick, Jack Wall. Like, I feel like we could go on a list here of like kind of like the who's who. And then like when you get to add your name to that, it's like, there's sometimes I think even guys like you that are very, very good at golf, like there's got to be times where you pinch yourself and you're like, dude, is that really my name on the trophy with all these guys?
Yeah. I mean, I do. You're 100% right. You have to pinch yourself to even realize that you did it. I would say that golf's very humbling. Like I turned around 2 weeks later and finished like 36 in the Met Open and didn't do so great at that stage. And I'm not saying you forget about what you just won, but it's a very humbling game. So it brings you back down pretty quickly. But it is nice to, whether you have the trophy with you or, something pops up and you're listed as the champion, that you have to pinch yourself again and be like, yeah, I actually did that. I'm part of that group of guys and no one can ever take it from you. So that's.
Yeah, big time. Now let's talk a little bit about US Open qualifying, and obviously, when we talked to Pat a couple weeks ago, he told us about, he's had success getting through local qualifying. But then like sectional qualifying is like the longest day in the history of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you're going June 5th. Is that the sectional qualifying?
Yeah, I'll be June 5th. And the way it works, I don't really know my final site yet. You do a first selection, and my first selection is Canoebrook because I think this will be, I could be wrong. I think this will be my third time at sectionals at Canoebrook. Sectionals over at Century and Old Oaks. But yeah, so that's where I selected. We'll see where I end up. I guess they'll tell me in the next couple weeks or so. And as far as the longest day, I mean, I don't know, it's kind of a marketing ploy. 36 holes to qualify for the US Amateur as well. We played 36 holes the stroke play day of the Met Amateur. So we're pretty used to 36 hole days. I mean, I guess the pressure of qualifying for a major is a little bit greater than slipping into match play in some other event. But I'd say, I mean, not to be naive, but I mean, I'd say it's very similar to trying to qualify for the US Amateur, which is 36 holes in one day. And there's a lot of people that dream about playing a US Open, but there's a lot of guys that dream about playing one US Amateur as well. So I think it's a lot of pressure. Long day. Any 36 hole day is hard, and when there's a lot on the line, yeah, it's tough, but it's an exciting thing, and I'll definitely gonna lean on my experience and past performances and past participation in the longest day of golf, and I feel pretty good about this year, and Pat told me a funny story. Pat's obviously a dear friend of mine and my partner in the US Fourball, but he was following along from the office when I was playing last Monday at Shorehaven, and I just didn't really have my best scoring day, but kind of fought through it, hit it really well, didn't drop a ton of putts, and he saw that I got through in a playoff. There was a 4-for-1 playoff for the last spot out of that site, and I had a 4-hole playoff, and he calls me after and he goes, "You had a 4-hole playoff?" I was like, yeah. And he goes, "Did you make 4 pars?" I said, "Mm-hmm." And he goes, "That's what I did the year I got through to Chambers Bay. So I think you're going to qualify." And so it's nice to have him pumping my tires and give me a little good mojo going into the final qual.
There you go.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
So what's the next step for you here with the US Open qualifier? Like, are you
I mean, I don't know. I got to take care of life between now and then. I
Well, before you even go there, why don't, to our audience, I think a lot of times they hear us maybe talking about a more competitive side of things. So explain the process because, like when you sign up, okay, there's local qualifying, okay? And then, like you said, they only take X amount of people there. Explain that process to the audience before you, in a sense, could end up at LACC playing in the United States Open.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the numbers and the process of qualifying for US Open, it would drive you to not even try, I would say, if you did the statistics on it. I think over 10,000, maybe over 11,000 people signed up. I'd have to look up the number. And that's everyone from who's exempt into, some people are exempt into the second qualifier, the sectionals, or the final qualifying as they're calling it now. And those would be like PGA Tour players who are fully exempt on tour, but not in the US Open based on world ranking, would get straight into that. And the majority of those 10, 11,000 people will select a local qualifier. They've got a bunch across the country. And for the most part, those are between 80 and 120 guys. And you're looking at 5 or 6 of those people getting through. And it's an exact number. You can't finish tied for 5th. Like 5 people are going through. And so that's where I ended up in the playoff I was in. We had five spots. They take 2 alternates. Alternates rarely get a phone call because if you make it through that, you're probably showing up for the sectional. And yeah, I ended up tied 5th after the stroke play was done, and you end up in a playoff. And we had 4 guys vying for the final spot, that 5th spot. So it's incredibly hard if you look at the numbers, and your probability of getting through even just the local is very low, and then to get through local and then get through sectional, it happens most years. There will be people that do that, but yeah, it's a long shot for sure. But it's also, you're playing for getting in a major and a dream come true for most people, and it means a lot to everyone that's in sectionals, whether you're a PGA Tour player trying to keep your card or make some more money, or a guy like me who's yet to play in a major, and it would be a lifetime achievement for me. So a lot on the line. You're playing for a dream. It matters to everyone in that field, and it's really hard.
So they changed the name of sectional now to final qualifying. Did I?
That's what I'm seeing on the paper.
Yeah, me too, because I thought so too, because when I saw things and I'm like, wait, I thought it went local, sectional, and then you got in after that point. And then I started seeing final. I was like, okay, maybe I'm misreading things or misunderstanding things.
Yeah, I think it's part of them trying to simplify things. Like, how in match play it was always all square, and a lot of the traditionalists still like to say all square rather than tied. But I think for people that are viewing qualifiers, what does sectional mean to them? It doesn't really mean that much. So I think they're trying to clean that language up a little bit and make it a simplified version for the entire audience that consumes golf.
So I mean, getting if you get your first choice with Canoebrook, I mean, you gotta kind of. I mean, I'm not gonna try to jinx you or anything, but I think you like your chances a lot more than if you got stuck somewhere else. No. How many people do you think they take at sectional? Let's put it that way.
It's
Or
different.
final.
Yeah. It depends on the strength of field.
Get the verbiage right, Mike.
I know. I'm so used to saying it in such a certain way that
I agree. I say things. I'm going to say sectional and final multiple.
I know. Listen, totally get it.
Yeah, it depends on the strength of field. So they have 2 in Ohio that are right around the PGA Tour being in Ohio. So they're going to have a bunch of PGA Tour players. So I think, out of there, I don't know what is 16 places that each of them maybe get through. And Canoebrook's probably 4 or 5 people. 3, 4, or 5 people will get through. And I've seen ones where only 1 gets through or 2 get through. And
Wow.
obviously they do their best to judge the strength of field. And I think they've been doing this for many years, and they do a good job. And whether it's 5 or 16 or whatever it is, you got to play great golf. So, and it's great. I've played a bunch of golf at Canoebrook. It's nice to be familiar with the course, no matter what. I'd like it better if it was a Sleepy Hollow, but I like my chances there. And I used to chase, to answer that honestly, I used to chase sites a little bit. I would look for sites where I felt I would play well. And then if I look at my USGA track record, whether it be for a mid amateur, a US amateur, US Open local, all the different USGA qualifiers I've played, uh, there's no rhyme or reason to it. I mean, sure, knowing the course helps, but if you play well, you're going to do well. And if you know the course and you don't play well, you're not getting through, and definitely not for the US Open. So it just requires patience and good golf and a good mindset that day. And I think this year for me mentally, it's a little bit different. I had obviously had a successful year last year, and I think winning breeds winning, and learning how to win and be comfortable winning, even if you're never really comfortable, but just getting over that hurdle once or more than once, it helps a lot. And in the past, I feel like I was very excited to be there at final qualifying, and it was more of a dream than maybe me believing that I was going to do it or could do it. And this year, the odds are I'm not going to make it. Fine, I understand that there's a lot of good players in the field, and very few people make it through. But I do have the self-belief that if I go out and I play well and do what I can do and take care of what I need to take care of, that I can qualify. And I don't think I've ever entered the qualifier truly believing that I was going to or I could qualify. It was more of like, man, imagine if I played well and got in. That'd be really cool.
And so when it comes to the final qualifying, what's the closest that you've gotten?
It's kind of misleading. I think I was 2 or 3 away one year, and I backdoored it. It wasn't like I was on the cut line and like, oh, I bogeyed and then someone birdied and I missed by 2 or 3. It was like I wasn't out of it, but maybe I needed to shoot like 30 on the back nine or 31 on the back nine of the 36 hole day, and I ended up shooting a couple under, and I was like, and people like calling me, oh, you only miss US Open by 3 shots or 2 shots. I'm like, yeah, it was never really in.
That's great.
So, Brad, how, like, obviously we had Pat on and you said you guys are close. How did that relationship kind of form? How did that, do you guys decide to be partners? Like, obviously, you put two great golfers in a four ball, it could be great. But what makes you guys as a team better than, like, both of you decided, like, I want to play with the other one? How did that come about?
I was bullied into it, to be honest with you. I love the Pat, but no,
I'm gonna text him right now and quote you right there, and that's say
yeah,
that's what he told me right now.
yeah, it's not that far off from the truth. I no, traditionally I'd played with my buddy Tim Connors, and we were looking at qualifiers. So we qualified for two, and I think we're 2 for 3 in qualifying or something like that. And last time we was at Chambers, and we almost made match play. We missed the playoff by a shot. We actually I think we bogeyed our last hole at best ball. Best ball bogeys don't go too far. Um, but we looked at, he just moved to Florida, and we're both busy, a lot going on, and we got locked out of a qualifier last year because people sign up like, golf's booming, which is great, but people sign up so fast that we got locked out of qualifiers and ended up not even be able to play the qualifier like 2 years ago. Then last year he was moving, and we just couldn't find a qualifier that even worked for us. So I didn't sign up last year. And then Pat had signed up with Mark Costanza, and Mark had, mid-am obligations, right? Work stuff comes up, and if it's before a certain date, you get a substitute for one of the partners. And Pat was looking to still play, and I'd known Pat, very sparingly from he's younger than me, and I played with him at the Met Open at like Plainfield a million years ago, and he was still in college, and he shot 65 in the first round. I was a pro, and I didn't like that too much. But obviously knew he was a great player, and he did great things, won the Met Amateur, and like played in the US Open. The guy's a stud, and great player, and he's also just a great guy to be around. So we started hanging out a bunch at Aaron Hills at the Mid-Am, and we were talking about it, and he needed a partner, and I wasn't really looking to play, but I said, since you're asking me, I mean, you're a great player, great friend, great guy, like, not only we're gonna have a great time on the course, like we're gonna have a ton of laps, we're gonna make a bunch of birdies. You're a great player, and you know, I'd be delighted to do it with you. So I didn't really know I was playing and until this came up, and it was the right place, right time kind of situation where, you know, unfortunately Mark, who's a phenomenal golfer and proves it week after week with top finishes, just couldn't play, and I was, you know, they got the lefty in, so yeah, I got tapped in.
This call to the bullpen is brought to you by.
And I told him, I said, you know, it's not just me subbing in for the qualifier, because I feel like we're both playing well. If we go to the qualifier, we're gonna win the qualifier, and we're gonna go to the tournament. So, and that ended up happening. So maybe that was belief, or
Yeah, there's that mental
Yeah,
part.
you shot 64. You guys shot 64. Best ball in a qualifier.
yeah, the weather was not great either. So I think big ask.
Stupid number.
So you're saying it could be lower. How low could it be?
On that day, that was as low as it could have been.
No. I'm saying if you guys are cooking, it's a good day. How low are we going?
What course we at?
What are you two doing at Kiowa day one?
Oof.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's go.
All right, let's figure this out. I don't know what course we're playing first. I've never played either course, so we're playing.
Well, he's down. He just got down. He was down there.
Yeah, he played with some rental clubs this weekend there. So like, you know,
Yeah,
he
listen.
didn't even play the course we're playing. So yeah, I don't know. It's different kind of scouting.
So
trip.
what did he just easy scout the bars? If you're gonna go down and play with rental clubs and a course you're not gonna play, why the fuck go down on the trip?
Oh, by the way, are you turning down Kiowa trip?
No, I'm
Are you
not.
gonna turn? No, exactly. So if someone says let's go, let's just go.
It was a work trip for him. He was with his
Oh,
buddy.
okay.
Yeah, it's different program, you know. That's
Gotcha.
it just happened to be he was in Kiowa. So he said he found some great spots for us to you know, have some burgers and Diet Cokes.
6 packs of soda.
I think
yogurt.
I'm gonna come down with my self-made shirt that's gonna say the Cream Team on him.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Scare some people, I think.
Do I gotta bleep that out?
No. Pat texted me. I said, give me something on Brad. He said, just say Cream Team, that you're showing up the Kiowa with Cream Team.
Yeah. I mean,
That's a team name.
I mean, he's a huge creamster, so I mean,
Let's go. You know? I mean, in all seriousness though, when you guys go down there, like you two, you know, and I hate to say this sometimes, is like, you know, former pros that like to have that, you know, in a sense, that scarlet letter on you guys is like, oh, you guys should not be here. You're really professionals. But the reality is you're not anymore. And people may always be negative or hate on things regardless of the situation, because that's sometimes the world we live in, that everybody just wants to harp negative. But like, you two gotta legitimately like your chances to get through stroke play. And then, like, we all know that once you get to match play, like, anything can fucking happen. Anything.
yeah. I mean, honestly, for sure. If someone doesn't like that we play professional golf, I mean, they probably need to pick up a new hobby or play better. I'm sorry. I mean,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, because we also had the same conversation with Alex Beach a while ago, way back in December, when we interviewed him about, like, because people look at him sometimes as like, on like the assistant pro circuit, like, you're really a full-time pro. And he's like, I'm not. If you don't like it, then play better or try to beat me.
yeah, I mean, that's probably just a negative attitude or jealousy, or I don't know. I don't really want to even get into that. I choose not to hang out with people that, you know, harp on those kind of things. And I think the game of golf's really strong, and there's a lot of good players. If someone down there wants to complain that we played professional golf, I mean, I guess we're one up through one.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, let's
right. You're
go.
living rent free in their heads.
Go.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, by the way, I mean, I'm turning 40 that week. If someone's worried about, you know, a 40-year-old against some, you know, some college kid or high school kid who practices all day is worried about a 40-year-old, they got a lot of learning to do.
Yeah. That's the other thing, is you could go down and you could be like, you know, someone gives you shit about being, you know, ex-pros. You'd be like, yeah, X pro, and then you go fucking eagle the first hole, would be like, that's your X right there.
Yeah. Yeah. The game of golf doesn't love a lot of smack talk, and I mean, I think we'd be fun to have one tournament where we could mix it up a little bit.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Some, like,
Kiowa is a spot. May 20th, pay-per-view. You know?
Last
But I mean,
lean into it.
yeah. I mean, but in all seriousness, you got to like your chances.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
Yeah.
you two got to be going in there confidently. You're playing good golf. Like, it's a big stage. You guys have been on a stage like that. You kind of know what it takes to be successful in that type of arena. Like, have you and Pat discussed the idea of like, dude, this is like a business trip. Like, we're going down there to win this thing because I think we legitimately can.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're both very good players. I respect Pat's game a lot. We joke that we're best ball specialists because we have, pretty different skill sets and talents. I mean, the guy doesn't miss a fairway. Like, last fairway he missed was probably like US Open 2013 or something. It's mind blowing watching him drive the golf ball. Like, it's like, he doesn't hit it short. I mean, he's a big, strong guy, but I mean, I don't know how you can, like, he barely misses the middle of the fairway. When they do the mow, like down grain into the grain, there's a stripe, like he's on the stripe. It's so for me, it's like really comforting. It's like you got a ball in play all the time. So I feel like I can freewheel a little bit. And when I get comfortable, I make a lot of birdies. So, so we joke that we're best ball specialists. I think it's, there's no press release coming out with us being favorites. I can tell you that for sure. I think we're under the radar, and I like that. I'd rather be an old guy, a mid-am, under the radar, a couple mid-ams showing up there. And I think we know what we can do. We believe what we can do, and I know that if we're at our best, I mean, we showed it in the qualifier we played in terrible conditions and shot a 64 and won the qualifier by 2 shots. I know what we can do, and we both believe that if we do what we do, that we should have a very good chance. So we're going there to win.
I like that. I like that confidence. As you said,
yeah, and when you guys win, we'll get you guys back on together to tell us even some more stories.
Yeah, we'll make sure. Yeah, that'd be fun.
We're going to be more interested though in those burgers and Diet Cokes.
Yeah, got great Diet Coke.
We'll get a lot of downloads on that one.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about how much of like a ham and egg are you guys doing there, as far as like strategy, or both of you just like, I'm going to play my game, you play your game, and we're just gonna go after it. How much does strategy come in between you guys?
I think that's personal for every team. I think for us, like, we have enough experience playing tournaments all over that we know what we do and what we're good at, and we don't really lean on each other too much, because at the end of the day, you're only hitting your own ball. And we talk a little bit like, where do you want me to throw this? Do you want me to put it to the front of the greens? Do you want me to be aggressive? A little bit of that, but not a ton of that. And I think we're both pretty naturally aggressive players that like to make birdies, and maybe that's a good thing for best ball. You hope you ham and egg it, or if we're each going to make 6 birdies, they better not be on the same hole.
Right.
So, but I mean, a bit of that's luck, and like when putts go in, and we have fun with it too. I mean, like, we kept it really light in the qualifier, and I think we're going to keep it really light down there. That's our personalities, as I spoke to earlier. Everyone's got, a different way of playing the game. Some are angry, some are quiet, some are very intense, and we're pretty lighthearted, fun guys, and we're gonna have fun out there. And we did it with things like, I think on a couple holes we had like 20 footers for par. Another guy had a birdie putt, and we joked like, I'll just clean this up. Let me just tap in, from 20 feet. And the guys we're playing with, it was like aliens. But I don't know, the putt went in, so
Yeah.
like, oops.
And then, so as we look ahead to 2023, I know you mentioned your schedule and finding a way to make your, whole calendar make sense in terms of finding the events you want to play. Why don't you give us a little, projection or look ahead to what your schedule will look like throughout, the spring into the summer?
Yeah, I mean, 2023 has always been circled on my calendar for one reason, and that's that the US Mid Amateur is at Sleepy Hollow. So having won grew up there. I've played more golf there than anywhere. I've won a tournament there now and done a lot of good things there. And the way I describe it is like I think I know those greens better than the skin that's on my body. So it's obviously that's a huge opportunity for me, and where I'm ranked in WAGR World Amateur Golf Ranking, I'm exempt already for the event with the new exemption category they came out with. So don't have to stress about keeping my ranking in a certain place like I did in years past. And so this year's always been circled for me. Massive opportunity. And I mean, we all know what happens if you win the US Mid-Am. And to feel like you have a good chance to win any USGA event or any big event's huge, and this is a huge opportunity for me. So yeah, obviously it's gonna be a lot of pressure on me. I feel very fortunate that I obviously won there just last year in a professional event. So I don't think that takes a ton of pressure off, but it proves to myself that I can win there and I can win a big event there. And hopefully I can lean on that and play well in that. But kind of for me, like this winter turning 40, I spent a lot of time in the gym because you get older, like things don't work as well. And I'm definitely not a physical specimen, but I'm seeing a little bit of the benefits of the hard work I put in, and I'm going to try to continue to put that in. And as I said, because of the exemption category, not having to kind of like manage my world of amateur ranking, I'm freed up to play more events. And where I'll benefit from that is I get the opportunity to play the Ike. I'm also a member at Brooklawn Country Club over in Connecticut here. It's local to me, and I've been a member there for 2 years, so I'll be able to play the Ike for the first time in a few years, and support the MGA majors. Have a great opportunity to win one of those again, and I won the Ike in 03. There's that 19-year gap we had there, and so I'll play that. I'm gonna kind of mix in some national and but mostly local and regional. Kind of what I do. I love the MGA. I love what they do, and I mean, they host great events with great fields at great venues. So, I mean, this year we got Ike at Brooklawn, Met Amateur at Friars Head, Met Open at Arcola. So that'll be the core of my summer. And then one of the events that I always love is the Northeast Amateur, where I get to mix it up with the flat bellies, these college kids. And it's one of the better amateur events in the world. In a way, it's kind of like the Masters of amateur golf. I mean, you get to wear pants every day. You get a jacket if you win. It's one of the strongest fields in amateur golf, and very slippery, sloped greens at Wannamoisa in a par 69. So that's always a highlight for me. And then I get to play some really cool mid-am events. Like I just got back from Seminole, got to play in the Coleman, which is obviously a huge honor. And like just to be invited one day to play at Seminole is one of the coolest things to experience, let alone an entire week where it's yours. And so we have we just did that. I got Crump Cups at Pine Valley every year. So, I get to do that. And just kind of very fortunate that amateur golf is so strong and that so many of these great clubs and golf associations support us and able to carve out a really cool schedule. So I usually play about 9 events from starting at the Coleman through, October. And then another thing I'm really looking forward to is if I play well enough and can qualify for the MGA international team again, we play against Ireland in the Kerry Cup, and then that's going to be at Wingfoot this year. So yeah, playing an international match at Wingfoot is it's a huge opportunity, and
That's
hope I'm
awesome.
on that team. Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
Dude, those courses that you just
I
listed
mean,
there.
what? That's
I mean, it's
this
just
season is a lifetime course reel for
it's
you.
it's like a who's who. You want to go play Seminole? Okay, then we're going up to Friars Head, and then like we'll sprinkle in a little Arcola, and then dabble with Pine Valley a little bit. Oh, by the way, then we'll hit up Wingfoot. Like the venues, I mean, are second to none. And I think that's what I meant by when I said earlier, there's times when you just got to step back when you're on the putting green or even just hitting balls and be like, dude, look where we are right now.
yeah. I mean, obviously we talked about professional golf, and I won't say that I loved every minute of it, but it's not as glamorous as this amateur and mid-amateur circuit. And as much as I have to pinch myself with being the meta amateur champion, I got to pinch myself with, how fortunate we are. I mean, you're fortunate to play any private club, whether it be a tournament or whatever it is. I've been very fortunate in my life to see a lot of cool places, but to be able to compete at, that list of courses and the MGA, what they can do. I mean, I know there's a huge number of top courses in our area, but like they get them on the hook to host events. And yeah, it's really cool for the guys that get to participate, but it's also really cool for the guys that, you can sign up, if you're I don't know what the handicap index is. It's called a 2 handicap or better. Like you can sign up to qualify to try to play in the meta amateur at Friars. Like I don't really like, not most people don't even, there's not very many members there. So like, yeah, it's very hard to get an invite to a place like that. And but how cool is it that these great players around our section can sign up for a qualifier, and if they have a good 18 holes, they get to go there for a tournament of all things, which is better than playing a member hosted round, because you're seeing the course in its best possible condition. They're showcasing it for you, and man, what a cool thing. And if you get to, I'm lucky enough to play well and participate in a lot of these, and you got to pinch yourself still. It doesn't matter how many times you do it.
Yeah, incredible.
Brad, I got off on a little internet tangent here while you were talking. You were talking about your Wagger points.
Oh yeah.
So I went back and looked. I'm on the Wagger website. Have you been on there lately?
Yeah. I'd like to pretend that I don't keep an eye on it, but there's a lot on the line when it comes to that kind of thing. So they have these filters you can like put in the mid-ams and stuff like that. So I have to keep an eye on it for those exemptions and stuff like that. So I check it too often, to be honest with you. It's kind of embarrassing.
So
what are you looking at? Like, I mean, you're giggling over there.
I am. I'm gonna hold on. This is an audio vehicle, so everyone's gonna be.
What are we showing?
Who's this child in this picture?
Yeah, look how young the young buck.
I should probably update that, huh? Yeah.
It took me a while. I had to get past the no mustache, and then I was like, wait a sec, this might be for when you're in college.
That was from.
I mean, no offense. I think that's a pretty similar look right now.
Yeah, it's not that far off.
I'm not saying you don't look like you're turning 40, but I'd say this kid looks like he's in his mid-20s.
No way.
What?
I bet you that's a more recent picture than you give him credit for.
Let me tell you how old I was. 30 years old in that picture. So that's I think that's my last headshot from
wow.
the PGA.
You're right, Rye.
PGA Tour website. If you go on PGAtour.com, and they, for some reason, they keep like scrubs who don't play in the PGA Tour that were affiliated with like PGA Tour Canada and Latin America. They keep us on there, so it's like it'd be the same picture. So
it boosts their numbers.
Yeah, I'm a little bit guilty of maybe being lazy with a headshot. I mean, do you guys know like where to get a headshot other than a passport photo?
No.
Stand in front stand in front of your white wall and take a selfie.
It's selfie like this, and you smile into the thing.
Yeah, that's a bad look too. I think it's better just to be lazy and rip it off the internet and just upload it. And but they keep things tight over there at Wagger. Like you fill it out, and it's not like a profile. It's not like you're going in and editing your profile. Like you submit something, and they have to like go through this huge approval process or whatever. Like it's pretty serious. So
I mean, it's an impressive website you got there, or page, or whatever you want to call it. But I got a little distracted.
I thought you were excited. Maybe I snuck inside the top 200 in Wagger, not my headshot.
You are.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
He is top 200.
I know he is.
I thought that was what you were excited about.
Not headshot. I'll throw this out there. I can't find Pat's name on there.
Did he tell you about that?
No.
All right. So it's almost harder to get into Wagger than it is to move up, and I don't say that's not real, but you have to have.
I've heard that. I can't lie though. The people we've been fortunate to have some guys on Wagger, like for example, like David Ford came on the show. He's number 6 in Wagger. Like they make mention.
He's number 4 now in Wagger.
Moved up. Okay. Yeah, so they make mention of that, about how hard. I think even Marcus Stanza brought up how hard it is for there to be movement in Wagger.
Well, it's hard to get on. I mean, like you don't get you don't even get ranked unless you have like what they deem a qualifying event. And a qualifying event isn't a WAGR ranked event. It's you like winning an invitational, or it's like I think you have to get to like the quarters or semis better of like a USGA championship. And I think it's quarters for mid-am, for example. So like my first year back was 2017. Kind of played like a scrub for the beginning of the year when I was knocking off the rust, and then got it together at the end of the summer, qualified for the US mid-am. I went there and I played well, and I got to the quarterfinals, and then all of a sudden I had a WAGR ranking, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I didn't really know what it was. I was just getting back into amateur golf. And then it turns out there's all these benefits to having one and moving up. Like at the end of when entries close for the mid-am, the top 40 mid-ams just get exempt into the field and can forgo the 18-hole qualifier. So like it matters, but
That's huge.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
yeah. And like, so Pat won the MGA mid-am last year, but it's a 36-hole event. So it's not on WAGR. It has to be a 54-hole event. You don't have to play all 54. Like if it's a 54-hole event that gets rained out to 36, it still counts because it was designated as a 54-hole event. But you know, it's not to beat up on WAGR. I mean, like, how hard is it to create a ranking system? Like I don't want that job. Yeah, I mean, like they've done a really good job with what they do, and I think it's indicative of who's played great golf, and like you can't argue with the system, but it's really hard to get into the system. So I have, you know, with Pat's ability, no doubt in my mind, he's going to pop in there, and we can look him up, and we can give him a little bit of grief at the beginning too, because once you pop in, like they have a minimum divisor, so you're automatically ranked like 3,000 in the world. Which is,
will the four ball qualify him?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't think that they
Like
count.
team events or
I don't think.
I think it's a team event, so it doesn't count.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I agree with that. When I think I've like once I learned what WAGR was, I feel like I dove deep into it. And I don't think team events carry any weight, to be quite honest with you, which is crazy. But
One of the sneaky ways to boost your WAGR ranking is if you get onto these international teams, or like they don't have a divisor on them, so you get like they'll rank the field, and then they'll just give points, like bonus points to you essentially, because it's like just getting added in with no divisor added in.
well, you got to make that
so
international team.
you
then.
make that international team, you'll
Pressure. Yeah.
Get that ranking up.
you mentioned the Crump Cup. Are you did those invitations come out yet? Is that something you're hopeful for? I know how big of an event that is at Pine Valley, but is that something?
Yeah, I've played the last two. It's obviously a huge honor to be part of that and walk the grounds over there. I mean, it's just people who haven't had the opportunity to go just to Pine Valley at all, which is most people. I mean, it's such an honor and it's like so exciting to drive through those gates. It's like, I mean, I grew up as a Yankees fan, and like walking into Yankee Stadium, even the new one, right? Like you get like goosebumps and you feel it. You're like, this is amazing. I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to walk onto that field as a player, but just driving through those gates, it is incredible. And when you're there, like everything that goes into that place and what it's all about, you know, just driving your golf cart to the range and through the pine trees and all that stuff. It's like summer camp it's like the best summer camp in the world for people that love golf. Like you're just giddy the whole time you're there. So I've been fortunate enough to get invited the last 2 years, and I've played well both years. I was quarterfinalist both years. So I mean, it's hard to get into that top. They bracket out match play. So you play 2 rounds of stroke play and they bracket it out. And then there's a championship bracket. And then there's other brackets too. So guys can kind of continue to play and have their own tournaments. So I've been in that championship bracket the last 2 years and won one match. It's 16. So then quarterfinals will be the second match. And I lost to Stu the first year in the quarters. He drummed me. He played really well. And I wasn't quite firing on all cylinders that afternoon. And last year, I lost to the eventual winner, Stephen Bear, in the quarters on 18. He, like we were talking about this week, I saw him at the Coleman. I went up to him again. I was like, man, I got to tell you again, that putt you made in 18 to close it out was just really impressive. And obviously he's a really gracious guy and thanked me. And I told him, I was like, I'm really happy you went on to win the event. It makes me feel better that you took me out on 18. And
Right, you took the
so,
champ. You took the champ all the way.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, so they sent out a save the date pretty early in the year. And, they send formal invitations in end of July usually. So, and it's cool. Like you've seen the guys post the Masters invitations, like you see that it feels very similar to that for the world that I live in, right? Like I'm not playing in majors. I'm not Justin Thomas or whatever, but as a mid-am who's had some success, you get that piece of mail, and it's super exciting, and it's a beautiful invitation. And um I don't post that. I don't really. I mean, I post a lot on Instagram golf stuff, and my Instagram is all about golf, and I like to give back to the golf community in that sense. But I think there's some things that you just kind of keep off there, and the way I look at Pine Valley and Seminole, like you don't. I don't try to litter Instagram with too much of that, because they're very special places that you're not.
You can litter our feed though with those things, and we can vicariously live
Yeah.
through you. So that's perfect. That's perfectly fine.
I'll text you some pictures.
Yeah.
There's some places,
I
you don't really rip your phone out in those places, like it's
I figured that. I
you
figured
thought,
that had to be the case.
yeah, I mean, I guess you could. I choose not to personally, and for me that feels like the right decision. But it's just great to be there and to be part of that field, and it's a fun week too. Like it's some of these mid-am events are like we're all there to win and compete, and it's a huge honor if you could win at a course like Pine Valley or Seminole, and like we're all there for that. But it's also like we all get along, we know each other, and I've known some of these guys since we were junior golfers, and it's like a little reunion in a way. Each week we're trying to kill each other on the golf course, but grab a couple beers after and talk about life, and where we are in life and how great it is to be at these venues. So it's a cool week.
That is cool. Do you stay there? Is there like a house on property or something that the guys stay at, or you go to like is there a hotel? What's like the staying situation?
Yeah, everyone stays on property, so yeah, they've got plenty of housing over there. Whether it be houses or cottages, or they kind of have a lodge and something they call the annex over there, which is really cool. It's like then the newbies get to go into the annex. So I'm still in the newbie pool, which is fun. But the annex, it's like a dorm. It's like communal showers, and you got no TV in your room. If you graduate to the lodge, you get a TV in your room, so that's kind of huge. Maybe after 2 quarters, maybe you never know.
Okay.
Fingers crossed. Fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
Yeah.
So I got one final question here to kind of obviously Ryan and I always joke like we could talk to people for hours upon hours, and sometimes like even not knowing people, and then all of a sudden like sitting down and talking to me, we could just go on forever, and I don't want to take up your whole night. But obviously you've been someone who's played a ton of golf courses, and typically for like strictly New Jersey guys, I like to just hear like a spot in New Jersey that they kind of live and die by, like places that it is their spot. But obviously being someone like you that has had the opportunities to play big time courses, big time names that a lot of the audience would recognize just off their names. Like, is there one spot for you that may stand out way more than other spots that's maybe something that hasn't come up or that has already come up in conversation tonight?
Like, are you asking me what my favorite golf course is?
Yeah, just like like more or less like a spot that like it may not always be like your favorite spot. You don't always play well there, but like a spot that like every time that you get invited back or go, you're like, dude, I just can't wait to step on grounds again.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've been fortunate enough to be at multiple places like that. The places that I've only played Cypress once. Very fortunate to have played it, and like it's on a short list of my favorite courses, but I haven't really experienced it enough to be like I've never been back, so I don't know how I'm gonna feel if I ever do get to go back, but I'm sure that'll be quite exciting. But I'd say driving through the gates of both Pine Valley and Seminole, like you can't have a bad day. Like I don't have a bad moment out there. Like I can make a double bogey, and like it stings, and it hurts, and you want to do well, but like who cares? Like, I mean, it's just
Uh,
like you're giddy. That I'm pissed. I love golf. I probably like golf too much, like to a fault. I live and breathe golf. I'm obsessed with it, and yeah, I'm just giddy the whole time I'm at those places. You know, I don't know if I could choose one over another. They're very different, right? Like you got one on the coast in Florida, and you got Pine Valley in southern Jersey with pine trees everywhere. So like they're very different. But I have the same feeling when I'm at both of those places. But there's so many other places that I like. I I don't know. I mean, Wingfoot, like in the grill room at Wingfoot, is one of my favorite places in the golf world. Like you look around, like they've had the same like paper placemats since I was a child with like all the it's like it's a layout of the courses, and it's got the championships they've hosted there and the winners on it, and like it's incredible. Like I can't. It's one of my favorite places in golf. I've been fortunate to go to Shinnecock once, and like that was beyond exciting. National Golf Links. I've been very lucky, and I've played a lot of cool places, but I'd say to name the ones that I went back to, I'd say Pine Valley and Seminole are just too special to
and being in our area, you have so many, like you said, so many good ones. If you look at like the Met section, like you said, you go out to Long Island, North Jersey, Pine Valley and South Jersey. Even in our area, there's just so many.
Yeah, yeah, and like I don't know if it's a hot take or whatever, but there was a place recently in New Jersey that I was introduced to through tournament golf that I maybe naively, I mean, I'm not really up on Jersey that much. I mean, I spent a lot of time in Westchester and Connecticut and a little bit in Long Island. But I got to go to Mountain Ridge. And for me, like the first time I went there for the Boff Invitational, like honestly, like I know it's in the top 100 now. And so like I kind of wish it stayed out of the top 100, like not for them. They deserve their ranking, and like they deserve to be ranked better than they are. It was like, because everyone's like, oh, like how cool is a hidden gem, right? Like everyone talks about hidden gems and they just want to like post about hidden gems, but like that's the ultimate hidden gem. And like I bet it still goes unnoticed in the top 100. Like like if you don't know the area and you scroll through the top 100 list, you're like, what the heck? I don't know what that is, and you just keep going. Like if anyone gets the opportunity to play Mountain Ridge, it's a Donald Ross that doesn't look like Pinehurst at all. Like it's an old school, amazing course. Like their superintendent has done wonders there, and like it's incredible. Like it's really exciting for me to go back there. It's one of my favorite courses in New Jersey, and like I don't know. I got to play more golf in Jersey. So sorry for all the Jersey guys that I don't know all your courses. I'm sure there's a
No.
I've never played, but
Mountain Ridge.
So
we just
so two
we
things.
just
Yeah,
go down.
We gotta get
go.
you. We gotta get you out and playing some golf. So we gotta get. I'll tell you what. Let's figure out the strokes. We're gonna do Mike and I versus you and Pat. A little 4-ball action.
Good luck.
Yeah, oh God Almighty!
That's you guys are gonna give us.
It's gonna be 5 for 2.
You're gonna give
Forget
us
about anything else.
I figure
you guys are putting well.
I figure that's 36. 36 strokes we'll get at least.
Yeah, I still don't even know if we have a chance.
It's so funny that you mentioned Mountain Ridge because I literally hadn't heard about it. We're recording on Monday night. I hadn't heard about it until last Tuesday. It's the first time I've heard about it.
Yeah.
Last Tuesday, yeah. So like you talk about hidden gems, but it's in the top 100, and it's funny that you bring that one up because it is. While it still might have that ranking, it does still have, at least to me and Mike, I think for the same for you, like that hidden gem kind of feeling to it.
Yeah, and honestly, to be honest with you, like Brian, that was where Brian Gaffney. We just talked to him at Essex Fells last week. He mentioned Mountain Ridge too. He's like, if people don't know Mountain Ridge, I'm telling you, you got to go see that place. And it's funny that you say the same thing because Brian Gaffney we had on a couple weeks ago, or last week even, he just talked about so highly about Mountain Ridge. So it's kind of funny that, there's another spot in New Jersey. I'm telling you, they're all over in this state. And that's what we keep telling people.
Yeah, Jersey golf is strong. I mean, I got a lot to learn over there. I mean, like for me, my favorite courses in Jersey. I mean, obviously Pine Valley, right? And then, I mean, in no particular order, but like Mountain Ridge, Ridgewood, Baltusrol, Plainfield. But like I got the opportunity to play Rumson. Have you guys been to Rumson?
Yeah.
I know it.
Rumson's cool, man. Like,
Dude,
I like old
we
school
gotta
golf.
get him down to get him down to our area. I mean, like, we could get there's so many spots in the areas that we are.
So one of my good friends and clients is Chef Brian Norrie. He's a member there.
Oh my God! That's how
That's
I know
your
your
boy.
name!
That's your
Dude!
boy.
Oh my God! That's how I knew your name and I couldn't put it together. B Nor. Oh
Yeah.
man.
Dude, he's gonna
The
love
big
that
cat.
when he hears this.
Oh my
Big Cat
God.
can cook some food though, man.
Yeah, he can. He keeps
Big
busting
Cat.
my balls about getting on. He's like, we gotta do like a chef special on the podcast.
Yeah, well, maybe he can come on with me and Pat.
That is fucking funny as hell.
Yeah.
That is I couldn't place it, but I was like, Brad Tilley sounds really familiar. I can't really figure it out. Oh, that's hilarious.
Well, you know what I'm taking out of this?
How do you know Binor?
Well, what I'm taking out of this is that, like, B Nor throwing names around means more than the Met Amateur. You didn't know me from winning the 120 of the Met Am. You knew me because of B Nor. Like,
To be fair, I don't know anybody like that. That's Mike's realm. I just cracked into single digits. I'm a music and beers kind of golfer. I'm not like in the competitive golfing world. That's Mike's realm. So while he's like super giddy that like he's like, oh my God, we got Brad Tilley coming on, and I'm like, okay. Like he likes hockey. It's the first thing he said. So like it doesn't. I don't like fanboy over like you guys. And
No,
I'm
I
not
do
su-
though. I
no,
do.
I know you do.
I
but
look
like,
at you. I look at you guys as like, wow, these dudes are like. I know the PGA Tour is a different level, but like to me, like you guys golf the golf ball, and I guess there's like the part of me like, man, I wish. Like I get it around. Like my index is 1.4. Like I can get it around, but like then I see guys like you, and it's like no. They golf. Like they're really golfing. Like I like to think I am, but it's really not. So yeah, I do fanboy over all you guys. I do. I'm just.
I was just busting your balls.
oh my God.
Listen,
How do you know Brian?
I actually met him through like a golf group. Like we we're online chatting on like Instagram about like golf and golf courses and then he's a very outgoing guy. So like we started chatting and like he just had a great personality. So we just started chatting about like golf things and like going back and forth. And then I'm in the food and beverage industry. Like we import products from Scandinavia and sell them in the US. So like we have a lot of products and stuff that obviously would be good for him. I was like, well, like, why don't we play golf? And why don't you check out some of the stuff we have? Like, and you can tell me if it sucks, but I know it didn't suck. So like, it's a little bit of a business opportunity, but it was more that we had like a passion for golf, as well as, he's a chef and I'm in that industry. And so it's just kind of easy to get along, and he ended up, liking a lot of the products we have. And, just the rest is history. We played a ton of golf. And we're together. Like we don't really talk work, or we don't talk shop too much. Once in a while we have to, but we just mostly talk about golf courses. Like he just took a trip to Australia and like called me for an hour and told me about like every shot he hit and like all the clubhouses and the course conditions, the bunkering and all that. So like it's just he's a great dude and loves golf, and I love being around him and playing golf with him.
That's funny as shit.
He loves it, man.
Yeah, he does. He's a feed. And so Mike caddies over and his family's been a member at Manasquan for years, so he has that connection. So the pro at Manasquan, when we had him on, I was like, oh, you're gonna like your new chef, because that was like maybe 2 weeks after Brian got hired over there.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm like, Chris, you're gonna love him. He's a great dude. He loves to play golf, but he's a great chef. And he's like, yeah, I know he loves to play golf. I've sent him to 6 different places already. He's calling up. He's like he played Upper Montclair. Like I forget the courses that he had quite a run the first 2 weeks of being hired there that he got out
Yeah.
to.
And he's the kind of guy that like everyone gets, if you're within 100 feet of him, you get to know him and you love him. And because of that, like and the chefs have their thing and like the golf world's small and like he gets on these great plays and he calls me all the time. He's like, I feel like he's like every week he's like, "Yo, Brad, we're playing on Tuesday," because like Tuesday's a light day for him at work. And I was like, "Oh, like I gotta work, man."
He, he
Sometimes sometimes I do get to go with him and like we played Somerset last year in the like on a beautiful fall day and he's like, "You're coming out to Somerset." I'm like, "Dude, see you, I'll come out." And Somerset? Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, we're doing that.
He called me yesterday to go play. He's like, "Hey, I'm getting out of work. You want to play 9 at Manasquan?" And I was like, I would love to, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, it's 4 o'clock right now, and I can't. But
Yeah.
yeah, he's the man. Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we got off track there. Where are we, Mike? Oh, on to me. So we got 2 questions that we usually answer. Mike asks one last question. I ask another. You're clearly well versed in the golfing world. Been playing competitive golf for a while, and I tend to think that golfers are pretty quirky by nature. What are some quirks or some habits that you have that like you go to a golf course you just have to do them before a tournament, whether it's we've had people talk about how many tees are in their pocket or that sort of thing. What are some of your quirks there that you might have?
Yeah, I try not. I mean, golfers are weird, man. Like self-admittedly, like crazy. Like if you're gonna get that addicted to something that you're never really gonna be that good at, like I mean, you gotta be special. Um, but it's a great game, addicting game. I try not to be. I know we're all weird. I try not to have too many like superstitions or things, but like yeah, I mean they're little things, and some of it's just like habit. Like because golf, like playing good golf is like very routine oriented. Like you need to like do the same thing. Like if you look at pre-shot routines, for example, like they're the same, right? Like it's like a routine is almost like a nervous tick that like gets you past like getting over like to hit a good shot. So there's just things that I've done like the same way. Like I put my tees in my right pocket, my ballpark marker in my left pocket, my glove goes in my back left pocket, the scorecard in the back right or yards book in the back right. Like I don't know if that's a quirk, but like that's where I'm comfortable. If I put my tees in my left pocket, like I don't think I could play golf probably. I mean, I'm sure I could, right? But like it would be
You'd be
weird.
off. No, but like your chi would be off balance. Like you wouldn't be
I wouldn't like
centered.
it. I wouldn't like it at all. I don't do plastic tees either. I'm like not a fan of plastic tees. It's not for me. They get all bent and weird. I just don't like them, and I play worse. And when I used to play, I play TaylorMade now and TaylorMade golf ball, which has been really good for me. But I did play Titleist for a time, and I wouldn't play Titleist fours in tournaments because I made too many bad scores. I just noticed like it wasn't like something I just like would be playing, and like a few weeks in a row, I look down, I'm like, man, I'm playing bad today, and I look at my ball, it's a Titleist four every time. I was like, you know what? I'm done with Titleist fours, so I refuse. Now I got TaylorMade, and they don't have fours. They do 1, 2, 3, 5. I guess from the Penta era of that Penta golf ball. So like I don't have to worry about that with my TaylorMade ball.
Good
But
reason to switch.
yeah, I mean that's not what happened, but I mean, obviously it's perform it for me. Like everyone has like I love like launch monitors and all the nerdy side of the things that help you get better. And for me, the TaylorMade TP5X just worked better for me. So like that was an easy decision. It was like a really quick switch for me. So, but it is convenient that they don't have fours. And then at the international matches, so we do Kerry Cup, where the MGA plays against Ireland, and we do the French American where we play against France. And it's just every other year we do that. Then we travel and they come here and back and forth. At the Kerry Cup in Ireland in 2021, yeah, in the fall of 2021, I invited the club president, who was my sponsor at Brooklawn, to go caddy for me. He's Irish, loves Ireland. And I was like, whatever, it could be a cool opportunity. You travel with the team, you caddy for me all week in the event. Do you want to do it? And he wanted to. We went over there, and before the first match, he he packed really light. It was kind of weird. I'll never forget this. Like, you're going for a week to Ireland, and the guy brought like the smallest duffel bag I've ever seen. He's like, I'm all set. And I was like, all right, dude. Like, I'm sitting there with like the biggest suitcase I've ever seen, being ready for every weather condition or whatever. I was like, all right, whatever, man. But he told me before the first match, he goes, I got something in my pocket that I found in my duffel, and I want to give it to you. And I had never played Seminole at that point. I was going to the 2022 Coleman in the spring, so like 5-6 months down the road. And he's like, I know you're going to that event. I know, like, it's really exciting. I've been there, and I actually randomly found a ball marker from Seminole in my duffel bag, and I wanted to give it to you. Like, you don't have to use it. And I was like, no, man, that's awesome. I'll use it. And I didn't really have like a ball marker that I religiously used, but I played well that week, and since then, it's the only ball marker I'll use in a tournament. And the quirk that I have with it is like one side is yellow with the blue ring that says Seminole Golf Club. Another one is just like the logo on the yellow side, and I only use the yellow side up when I mark my ball. So like that's definitely a quirk that you'll see. I mean, the only time I won't use it is like I the little flat ones you get at a club with a little nub that goes in the ground. I always keep one of those in my pocket, just out of courtesy to the guys in my group. Like if I hit it to like 2 feet and they have to putt on that line or something, like I'll use the flat one. So like I don't have like a different marker that could bounce their ball off. Just out of courtesy, I'll do that. But every other putt, like every tournament round, I have that Seminole ball marker that he gave me, and that's all I'll probably ever use in a tournament. I mean, hopefully I don't lose it, but I'm pretty good at keeping.
Yeah. Those don't tend to go away. That is a cool one.
Yeah. Quick work.
Mike, he's not a Jersey guy, so we can't.
Yeah,
ask him
I don't know if I was gonna say I don't know if you can go down that road of asking him your last one. I'd be surprised if he could answer the question. But I mean,
challenge me.
let's go. Challenge. I mean, he's a food guy. He's a food guy.
I was just gonna say he's a food guy, but it's not you and I. It's the other one.
Okay.
So the other question that we like to ask, on these is because we're a Jersey podcast. There's a great debate in New Jersey about a particular breakfast meat and its name.
Oh gosh.
Do you? I'm guessing by that look, you don't know the debate. Do you call it pork roll or Taylor ham?
Taylor ham.
Okay. So in New Jersey, there's a great debate. It's kind of like you can tell where someone's from in the state. How, like, if they're North Jersey people call it Taylor ham, and being a New York guy, I would think that you'd be a Taylor ham guy as well. Mike and I are both pork roll guys.
I feel like I get a free pass. Like, I mean, of any judgment on that. I'm not even from New Jersey, so like, I guess I can call it whatever I want. But I didn't know that pork roll and Taylor ham are the same thing. I've actually never heard of pork roll. So, but like, like what about like in the South, like every soda is a Diet Coke or a Coke, not a Diet Coke. Every soda is a Coke. Like you can get saying, do you want a Coke means, do you want soda? Or like, then you go to Michigan and it's a pop. Like, I mean,
well, listen, when you come to New Jersey, we're going to get you a pork roll and cheese sandwich, and you're going to be like, all right, now I get what you guys, we know what you're talking about now.
It's just pork and cheese. And what do you put it on?
A bagel. With some egg on it, yeah.
Oh, with egg too. Okay,
it's like a breakfast. It's a breakfast situation.
Yeah.
You guys almost lost me there when like it was just gonna be pork and cheese. I was like, I don't know.
So there's another end to that debate. You could put it on a bagel or you can put it on a hard roll.
For me, like it would be a bagel for me. Growing up in
me too. Me too.
I love bagels.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care how sloppy it is. Like, I mean, whatever. I'll spill my shirt. It's fine. And
it still shoots 65. It still shoots 65. You know, we'll catch up all down the middle.
Maybe not. But yeah, talk about food and weird names. So like, it's an amazing thing. So for me, like, you'd get a sub in New York, right? Like you go to Delhi and you get a sub. Like I've heard wedge. I come to Connecticut and
wait, did you just say I've heard wedge? Someone's called it. Can I have a wedge?
Yeah, that like a sub roll is like they have like they call it a wedge or like a hero too.
Hero, I've heard. I've never heard a wedge.
Wedge, yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, for me, it's a sub. and who
Agreed.
says
Me too. Me
but
too.
so I come to Connecticut, and I love Connecticut, man. Like, living here is awesome. The people, the way I describe Connecticut, it's like Westchester County, but everyone's nice.
Okay. Okay.
Whereas, like, you
Good
go
thing we're
into
not
like
popular in Westchester.
I love Westchester. I grew up there, but like it gets a little. I lived in Florida for 10 years, so I think I slowed down a little bit. And like the pace in Westchester, like you go into the deli and like you can walk up and it's busy, and like if you're looking at the menu and it's your turn to order, like next, too slow. I was like,
Wow.
oh,
No soup for you.
sorry, man. I just want to order a sandwich.
Yeah.
But so I come over to Connecticut, and they asked me if I wanted a grinder.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know. I mean, I don't know.
That I've heard too.
I don't know where to start with that, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
just leave that one there. But I never heard of a grinder.
Never.
You know what? This is way off topic, but what bothers me is when people call hot dogs glizzies.
Oh, yeah, not for me.
That's the worst.
Hey,
That's the absolute worst. Get your millennial garbage shit name out of here.
Remind me, where do they do that, or is that like an age thing?
I don't know. I feel like it's an age thing, or it's like a Instagram or TikTok thing. I don't know. You hear people say like glizzy, and I go, I don't like that one bit. There's nothing about that that's appealing to me.
In my head, I feel like that's like a Chicago thing, but maybe not. I'm trying to place it.
Yeah, I
kill
don't
me.
know what part it is, but it should be no part of anything.
I'm digging into the internet. Yeah, no, like that's not a thing, man. That's not a thing.
Well, there we go. We got Taylor Ham from Brad.
Yeah, there you go. Well, figures.
I
But
will
listen,
say, being an outsider, I'm glad you got it at least. I'm glad you at least know what your breakfast meat is.
At least
Yeah.
I've heard of Taylor Ham.
Yeah.
Imagine if I didn't know it either word, that'd be terrible.
we'd have to cut that part out.
Yeah.
But listen, in all seriousness, thanks again for coming on. You know, I know, when I reach out to people on Instagram or any type of social media or email, like sometimes I think people don't understand, like we're just two guys that want to talk golf, play golf and experience all things that we can. And getting guys like you and your history and what you've done and the accolades that you have are, really, really do help. And so I can't thank you enough for giving us, over 90 minutes of your time tonight. So best of luck at Kiowa. Obviously, we'll be nerding out and following along, and I'm sure I'll be sending you guys some DMs and some texts, checking in the bars and the Cokes and the Sprites and seeing how things are going. So thanks again, pal. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, it was fun chatting with you guys. It was great to get to know you guys and chat golf for a while. And I appreciate the support and look forward to get to know you guys more in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Brad.
Take care, guys.
See you, pal.
Bye.